You guys want to get into Ableton 12? All right, check it out. So here's the deal. I have been on Ableton 12 the past 5 months or so, and I think it is a great update. It's really dope. I don't use all of the features that are in it, but I use a lot of the features. And I would say that overall, it's a good upgrade, a really good upgrade. And I'm going to show you why. Ableton Live 12. Let's get it. First things first, the views. So it looks pretty similar. It's a little bit smoother looking. There's definitely some game-changing features in here. So check it out. At the bottom here, if you click this, you have your clip view, and you can click this, and now you have your device and your clip view. So for those of us who use Ableton, this is a big deal. To sweeten it even more, you also have the mixer view. If I remove the device view, now I have the mixer and the audio track view. So this makes it much easier to work. Just being able to see everything on the screen, for me, makes it way, way easier. Now you don't have to switch over here to the clip view in order to see the mixer. Everything is right here in the front. And you can even remove the audio view, remove the browser, and if you want, just work in a more mixing-friendly workflow where you have all your tracks up here and your mixer down here. I really like that. Right here, if you turn this up or down, you can magnify or reduce the level of your waveform. This is not magnifying or reducing the actual volume, but just the way the waveform looks. Those of you who use Pro Tools might be used to that. Where I find that useful is if you have a very quiet audio track. You can magnify it and see what it looks like. So it's a visual thing. Another thing that I really like is, say we go to Drums That Knock X and we want to look through some kicks or some hi-hats or drum loops. To the right, there's this icon, and this is a similarity search. So if I click that, Ableton is going to search my entire library with all my sounds, and it's going to find sounds that it finds to be similar. And on the right side, this shows how similar it is. So it's finding sounds that are similar. So that's a breakbeat, but let's use an individual sound. Let's get a melodic one shot. I like that. Let's use that. So here it shows how similar they are. So this one it's saying is pretty similar. I would agree. So it does a pretty good job, and you could also search here and just type in one shot. But practically why I like the similarity search is because, like, if you're looking at snares, sometimes it doesn't say snare in the title. And what's beneficial about finding similar snares is it might not be labeled as a snare. And with that, it's taking the sonic characteristic of the sound and finding similar sounds. So I find that to be super beneficial. Let me show you guys the new drum rack feature. I think it's pretty cool. So if I get a drum rack, and I'm gonna start loading some sounds in it. So let's get a kick. Let's get a snare, like that. Let's get a hi-hat. Okay, just as an example, in the drum rack, it also has the similarity button. So if I click that, it brings up this toggle, right and left. And if you look, each cell in the drum rack has a right and left and a lock button. Say I really like this kick. If I hit the lock button, it's not going to change. Say that the snare, I'm open to new versions of it, and the hi-hat, I'm open to new versions of it. So I won't click the lock button. Now when I click the right, it's finding similar sounds in my library. The first two sounds were the same because it was actually the same sound, just with different labels, because I have different versions of it. That's dope. So now if I keep doing it, it's finding more similar sounds. It's a good way to quickly move through your sounds and see what else you have that could match the vibe. If you don't want to completely change everything, it's finding similar sounds. So you could maybe find something that works a little better. Okay, another feature that I like in Ableton Live 12 is the filters. So I went through all my Drums That Knock packs and I filtered them. For example, so if you click the edit button here, you can start to label your sounds in any way you want. So I did that process, and so I labeled it by pack. So if I click DTKX, these are all of the sounds from DTKX, all here. But if I just want an 808, these are all the sounds from DTKX that are labeled as 808s. Instead, I could go breakbeats. Those are all the breakbeats in DTKX, so on and so forth. So I can go to each kit and have all of my sounds available to me with one click, rather than going through folders and all of that. And then I can even break it down even more. So I want DTK8 hi-hat loop. So I have all my drums that knock 8 hi-hat loops. So that is the filters. I think it's really good, and if you're an organized person, it comes in really handy. I did it with all my packs. You do it once, it takes a little bit of time, but it's not too bad. Another thing, this is something interesting, and I actually had never used this while I was testing out the beta, but I watched a video yesterday showing all the features in Ableton 12, and somebody taught me this. This is a back and forth button in the browser. So now when you're searching for sounds in the browser, there's actually a history. So if I hit back, it will show me where I've been in this session. So I can keep going back or forward in the browser. So I don't have to research. Oh, I like that sound I had. I can just click back. Another dope thing. Okay, this one, this is where we get into the good stuff. I'm gonna make a new MIDI clip. The piano roll is getting a lot better, guys. It's getting a lot better. We're now in a place where FL Studio has a great piano roll, but now I'm feeling like Ableton might be on the same level. If not, it's damn close. Our piano roll is getting really good. So check it out. There's a lot to show you guys here. One thing about FL is I really liked how easy it was to create quick hi-hats, like trap style hi-hats or whatever. So now, if I set the grid size here, say I want 1/8 note hi-hats. I just set the grid size, Command E, boom. So I went from 1 hi-hat note to Command E. Now I have 1/8 note hi-hats. Now say I want to do some hi-hat rolls. I'm going to go to 16ths here. And I could just go Command E. And then say I want to do a triplet. There you go. That's one way to do it. Command E allows you to chop. So another way you can use Command E is say I just want to chop right here. Command E will chop right here. So that's another way you can use it. Another thing I want to show y'all is if I make one long note or whatever, however you want to do it, if I hold down Shift and hit E, it gives me this little slice icon next to my arrow. So I can actually chop like this. I don't hear many people talking about this. This is really dope. So you can chop notes now. Another thing I can do is if I make one long note, and hold down Option and click E, you can see it has these 3 blocks and this arrow. If I click and drag up, I can make evenly spaced notes. I'm just dragging up and down while I hold Option E. This is actually amazing and fast to come up with different grooves, different patterns, and for me, this is really dope. I don't think FL Studio has anything like this. And you can go real deep. So imagine this. So say we have a pattern, right? Let's go back kind of where we were, if I can. So I have this pattern going, right? So now I'm just going to hold down Option and click E on one of these notes. Boom, just like that. I have a roll. Boom, another roll. Boom. 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 There you go. And another thing, if I'm highlighted this here, you have your ramp right here at the bottom of the screen. So I can do a ramp just by doing this. I don't have to manually adjust the velocities. That's really dope. It's just this right here. It's just really easy to adjust your velocities, which is perfect for trap style hi-hats and everything. I don't know about you guys. I've heard some people bashing this launch for being mid and all this, and I think they just don't really know how dope this shit is. For me, Ableton 11 was already good. I'll tell you what, I have worked sponsored things with Ableton. I did Push 3 that was sponsored by them, but this is not sponsored. They hooked me up with this to use it and learn it and give them feedback, but none of this is sponsored. For me personally, these are just some good quality of life changes. I don't know if you guys agree or disagree, but it's a time saver. Before I used to go in and click all the notes, and it made me want to use FL Studio because it was so difficult to make trap patterns. And now I feel like it's arguably easier than FL Studio. I would go as far to say as Ableton 12 piano roll is beating FL Studio. Some other features. So say I remove some of these notes. So say I remove those notes and I want to join these two notes. Command J joins it. I want to join these notes. Command J. I want to join all these notes. Command J. Another way is say I want to take this note and fit it just to this time range, just to the 1.4. I just highlight it, this area. Command Option J will extend it to that time range. Boom. Shit like that is just such a time saver, makes it really easy, and it's just good MIDI functions that we've been needing in Live 12. We need it in our DAW. So that's some of the piano roll stuff. Okay, there's a lot more to show you. From a chord and melody perspective, let's load up a Keyscape. So as you know, you can set your scale in Ableton and it will be highlighted on the left. So right now we're in C major. Let's go to B flat minor. So say I have a note, I can now fold notes and I can fold the scale. So it only highlights in the scale. If I want to add an interval, I can do that. And I can add another one and another one. So this is the number of notes apart it is in the scale. And then when you hit add interval, it's going to always do it +2. So 2 notes apart. And if I increase that, it's going to do the same thing. Kind of a cool way to come up with chords you wouldn't normally come up with. So if I unfold the scale, and I'll play some stuff out of the key and some in the key. So obviously not sounding great. If I highlight this and click fit to scale, boom, it fits it in the scale that I'm in. Another thing, if you play some wrong notes on the keyboard and you click fit to scale, it will automatically snap those notes you played into the scale. So another cool feature. So now if we go here, this is our transform tab right here. This is our arpeggiator. Our arpeggiator is now in this left menu right here. And I can turn this up and arpeggiate the same way as the plugin used to do. So I can pick what style of arpeggiation and turn up the rate. And I can do my arpeggiation right there. And if I click off of it, it locks it in. And I can obviously undo it too. Ornament, this is actually really interesting for drums. It does a flam. So if you look, if I zoom in, it actually adds like a little ghost note at the beginning. I can change the position. I can change the velocity. And there's also grace notes. And you can also edit the chants of the grace notes. And you can see there's that little triangle in the top left corner. And the amount of grace notes. Pretty cool. Especially for me personally, I would use that for drums. You now have your quantize menu here. So this is the same quantize menu if you hit Command-Shift-U, which also still works. If you hit Command-Shift-U, it will take you to this menu. And it's the same quantize menu we know. This is where it gets interesting. Strum. Strum. Yes. Can we have a moment of silence for Strum? We have been waiting for Strum forever. This is something that is amazing in FL Studio. Now we have it in Ableton 12. This is how it works. Select your notes. Boom. Thank you. Now we can strum our notes. And you can make it go before, after. And I love how much you can dial it in. You can also dial in the tension. Beautiful. So we're going to lock that in and keep that. I'm going to go to Velocity Shaper. This one's interesting. As you play around with this line, it's giving you more control over your velocity. It's shaping your velocity. I think that's really cool. Really dope. So between Strum and Velocity Shaper, you can get those drawn in chords sounding really good. So you can generate chords, You got your strum and your velocity shaper, really good formula for making unique sounding chords. Time warp. This is sick. So if I select an area of notes here, I can warp the time of these notes. You get the idea. This is dope for like drum fills and changes in your production, even like melody stuff. You can really play around. I don't know scientifically how this exactly works yet, but I just know as you play with it, you can get a really cool, unique sound that's off the grid. So this is great for that push and pull feel. Really, really cool. Another feature I really like. If you want to use the pencil tool in Ableton, you have to click the B button and then you can start drawing in notes. Well, now what's kind of dope is you can latch the pencil tool by just holding down B. So if I hold down B, I get the pencil tool, and once I let go of B, it's gone. So it has a latch feature. So you don't have to keep it engaged the whole time. You can have it latched, which just makes for a quicker, easier workflow. Another thing that I want to show y'all. This is really, really sick. So I watched someone's video on the rhythm generator in Live 12. I'm just gonna start from scratch here. I'm gonna load up Addictive Drums session, and we're gonna make just a generative drum pattern. So if you click on this tab here, you get your rhythm generator. What I'm gonna do is I'm going to pick a note. Let's start with the hi-hats. If I hold down Option and click that, it's going to select that cell. So let's start generating. First, I get my steps. So I can play with that. So the lower it is, the more steps there are. Let's play around with it. Here, this is your velocity. This is the velocity of your accented notes. And this is the bass velocity. So for the accented notes, let's keep it at like 107, and the bass, let's bring it down 53. It shows you how many notes it hits until it gets to your accent note. Let's do 6. If you look at the bottom velocity here, this changes where your accent note hits. So let's put the accent note on the 1. So every 6 notes it's hitting an accent note. Split is the chance that your note splits. As you can see, it doubles up the note, so it's splitting the note. And the higher I do the chance, if it's at 100%, they're all split notes. But we're going to turn it down and make it a little more random. And density, as we turn it up, it just creates more density in the pattern. It creates more notes. And then you have your step duration. I like the 1/8. And then you have your pattern. This just scrolls through different patterns that you can play around with. You can see there's a lot of patterns. And then shift moves the entire pattern. I like that first half. Let's just keep that and let's lock that in. And so now let's get a kick. So I'm going to Option click on that cell, and then it goes to C1. And we're going to mess around with a kick pattern. Lower the density. Shift it on to the 1. Cool. And now let's do a snare. So you can come up with different grooves with this and different ideas. It's kind of cool. I'm clicked in, and so now I can play around with it. I can take some notes out, add notes. If I hold down Option E, so like most of that pattern we generated with the rhythm generator. And I can change it up. I'm going to move that there. I would have never, ever, ever came up with that drum pattern if it wasn't for Rhythm Generator. So I think that's pretty sick. I don't know what you guys think of that. Now here, I just did that hi-hat roll and I have my ramp here. Sick. Pretty dope. And then there are some new effects. There's one called Roar. It's a multi-band saturation plugin. Really, really dope. There's a modulation matrix here. You can take the LFO curves and everything, and just like Wavetable, you can reroute effects. It's actually a really dope multi-band saturation plugin. I love how you can adjust the type of saturation and shape it. It's really dope. I gotta honestly play with it more. I'm super impressed with Roar. I actually put it on vocals on a song I was working on the other day. And also there is a plugin called Meld, which is a brand new synth engine. I haven't had a chance to really play with it, but I've seen some tutorials. It looks really, really dope. It has an incredible modulation matrix. It looks even more in depth than Wavetable. I know you can pick shapes. There's like a sub section. It's really dope. I just wanted to go through some of my favorite features in Ableton. Those are my personal top features. It's really dope. Shout out to Ableton crew. Live 12 is incredible. As I said, I've been using it the last 5 months, so anytime I open up Ableton 11, it feels really weird. So that's a good thing. The piano roll features alone and the UI features alone are, in my opinion, worthy of upgrade.